When I was growing up, on the A6, my mum ran a guest house, a boarding house, that was full of kind of really strange people. I was about 13, 14, and I was really kind of taken with this idea of all these weird people that came, and how sort of different they were, and the idea of putting all these different people in one hotel.
Yeah, but a hotel totally lends itself to that kind of storyline,
Yeah.
doesn't it? So the word isolation keeps cropping up. I mean, that's quite important in a lot of your films.
Yeah.
Or is it about finding redemption out of the isolation?
Well, I think it's like that. I think to some extent, a lot of kind of cinema, you know, major cinema, is about kind of, you know, families, or, you know, it's about kind of romance, or it's about the notion of almost like middle class lives, or even working class lives around family. And I suppose for me, I don't think the idea of people that don't quite connect has ever been really fully explored in film, and that is what I want to explore. That you don't necessarily find redemption through family, it might be through connection in different ways, or, you know.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's a lot of lost people. And would you say that kind of runs through all your films?
Yeah, because I think it's something I want to explore, and I think I couldn't really hear Maxine's thing earlier. It was a bit broken up, but I think for me, I think it was mentioned that my dad killed himself when I was 11, and I think for me, I am sort of drawn towards the dark side of life, but also find those sort of characters more interesting. People that find it very difficult to cope, or are finding ways to cope and ways to move forward. I think for me, that is ultimately fascinating, and not through necessarily simple solutions. And I think Edge, in a way, was this idea that the day my dad killed himself, what if somebody had come along and talked to him, or he'd had this encounter that had saved him, really. And it might have happened, but I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. I mean, he gassed himself in his car, and he was found by a couple that were romancing down a country lane. You know. But I always think, what if they came sooner? You know. So I think for me, I'm sort of fascinated with that sense of people at the edge, I think.
So in a way, making films, is you trying to work this out, you know, this emotion out, or this pain out at all? Or is that kind of a shallow thing?
No, I don't think it's shallow, but I think that probably your preoccupations, you know, come to the fore in a way. And I think film, for me, like with Edge, I loved using the music, and this idea that music can engage your life and take you and express and stuff. So I think in a way film is a form of expression that can go alongside music and performance. It was brilliant working with Maxine and the cast, but I think for me it's not like I'm sort of caught up in trying to be explicit about pain, but I'm just interested in telling stories and expressing maybe parts of life that aren't told. And I think, you know, for me, I think the North as well, we have a way. I mean, I haven't been there for years, I'm very sorry, I'm not even there now doing Skype, but for me, the North have a particular way of dealing with tragedy, you know, which I think is different in the South. We don't sort of go over it. I think the North, we used to tragedy and difficulty, and I think in some ways we laugh through it, we do laugh, so I hope that the things that I do have humour in them, you know.
There was a lot of humour in it, a lot of black humour in it. So
yeah.
it kind of swerved to be very dark, and the next second it'd be really funny as well. Which I thought was, like I said, is very, very northern.
Yeah.
Even though it's set in Eastbourne, it is a very northern film, isn't it?
Yeah, because actually everybody that's written about the film tends to get it wrong about where it's set. And I think someone said it was Devon, somebody said it was Dover, and I think everyone's remembering the kind of place of their childhood. But for me, it was always a nowhere's place. It was a kind of almost, you know, a place that didn't belong particularly anywhere.
It
Well, obviously amused with the North because you've got Paul Hilton and Maxine and
yeah,
Morley, who's leads, you know.
There's a lot of northern accents and it does have a northernness to it, like the darkness in it. But where did you find that hotel? It was like a hotel. It was like a hotel that was ended nowhere, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, the hotel even now has changed because it's been taken over completely by the National Trust, and I think the cafes are now a little tea shop. But me and the producer, Carol Morley, were walking along, and I'd originally set it in an urban hotel in London, or well, not London, but just an urban hotel that essentially was very disconnected. But we were walking past it, and it's really close to the cliff, and I saw it, and we went in, and I was very drawn to the room and the cafe and stuff. And I think that ultimately I think within 10 years, the hotel will have gone because the cliff is eroding. And I like this idea that somehow it would no longer be there, that it was, you know, we're all in a way part of history and going to disappear, but that is really, really on the edge of going to not be there.
So ironically, the only thing that actually goes over the cliff's a hotel.
Yeah, exactly. The people are more enduring. The people are more enduring.
I mean, for me, the hotel was actually like almost like a character in the film. The kind of seediness and the shabbiness of it, and I've always really loved seaside towns and that kind of dampness. Was that? I'm quite glad you didn't set it in a hotel in London. You actually set it
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. And Maxine said you got lucky with the weather. It actually snowed when you got there.
Yeah, it was like lucky or unlucky, depending on how you put it, because the snow actually only really lasted for 4 days, so we had to really take advantage of it. Because it started to thaw, but obviously we were snowed in. So did Maxine mention coming in on a tractor?
Yeah.
So it was great for the production values and the look of the film, but we filmed over about 18 days, so obviously the snow wasn't there for most of it, so it's a bit difficult to work out. But I'm so glad it snowed.
You had to fake the snow in the end.
Yeah, just one.
So you're saying when you actually got the story together in the first place, you got the actors in to improvise the script, and you're trying to build a script out of improvisation. You could go through the creative processes. You wrote it as a story first, I think, didn't you?
It was a sort of short story, really, and I gave it the actors, and then we went into actually an ibis, and I just each couple. I took into a hotel room and I just filmed them, and I had ideas for their characters but not really what would happen, and I just took a video camera. I just felt like I was observing them, so I didn't really intervene very much. So I gave them some kind of background to who they were and maybe why they were there. And I think with say the young people in it, the Joe Dempsey and Nicola Burley characters, when I remember when Nicola Burley arrived playing the young girl, she just couldn't get a signal on her phone, so she's like this on the phone going, I couldn't get a signal. So I put that into the film itself, and I love this idea that for the young, it's so vital to be connected this way.
So I thought you put that on purpose, because I thought that made quite a cool little statement. So that was just completely off the cuff.
Well, it was in a weird way the hotel, when we found it, you couldn't get a signal anywhere. Everybody, absolutely everybody there, the crew, the actors were like really annoyed they couldn't get a phone signal. But originally in this improvisation that happened, and it made me realise just how, you know, ideas of connection are so important to people and how they've changed really.
Which in a way adds to the isolation, which is part of the theme. Yeah.
No, because I think nowadays in modern life, people feel so connected through the internet and vaguely through how we're doing it now on Skype. But, you know, you're not really physically there and you're not reading this, you know, it's very, very different. But I thought it was quite important in the film to not have the option, really, of communication, contemporary communication.
So how important was it to resolve the stories at the end, the character stories? Because it was...
I think if I made the film now, I probably wouldn't resolve them as much, actually. I think I would I would leave a lot less resolution in some ways. I don't know if anyone thought it was resolved or not.
Resolved, yeah.
So for me, I suppose moving forward in making films, I think, you know, I think for me, I'd probably try and, I don't know, I just try and not resolve things as much. Maybe I resolve things too much in Edge. I don't know what people thought there, I don't know. So.
For me, in a sentimental way, it's nice to get sort of half resolved.
Yeah, yeah.
Then in a dark northern way, it's quite good when it doesn't get resolved. So Maxine was saying it's a lot difficult making the film to get the money for a woman director, etc.
Well, I think it's you know, it's just really, really hard for anybody to make films, and I think, you know, very few women do make films, and I think they're very, you know, when you think about contemporary films, there are very few female leads, you know, in comparison to male leads. And so you will look at stories that are quite male-centred, so they might revolve around the man and stuff like that. But as a filmmaker, generally, I find it very, very hard to find and to make a film, and you do need money, even if it's a little bit. So Edge was under £100,000, and it was very much about essentially going, actually, I'm really frustrated, and I need to make a film, I need to develop as a filmmaker, and we went out and did it. And we didn't have all the money to start with, but we just said, we'll set this day and we'll go out and we'll start. And it was, you know, the faith of Maxine and Paul Hilton and the other cast that we have, you know, really did it. But I think to any filmmakers that are maybe there, that it's just that thing that, you know, want for approval of people saying, right, you're anxious to make this film. But it might never come, you know. And I had, you know, had a bit of success with the Out of the Years, which is a Manchester film, but it was just like incredibly difficult then to do something different, people to believe in you to do something different than that.
My name's Phil, I'm an independent film producer from Manchester. But yeah, my question is, two questions really. The first one is, kind of who shot it and how did they shoot it? Were there any influences? Because there was a lot of still shots, and whilst I was kind of seeing the film progress, there seemed to be a lot of almost photographs that kind of keep on coming, like almost creative photographs. So was the film influenced by photographs or by certain films or anything, or how did the visuals get developed?
Yeah, well, Mary Farbrother shot it, who I've worked with on my short films. Is everything all right there? Yeah. You went a bit funny. Yeah, okay. Mary Farbrother shot it, who worked on my short films, and I think our starting point was this idea of not really moving the camera until absolutely necessary. So it was this thing that, why are you moving the camera? And the camera is a kind of punctuation, really. I think I did look I looked at a lot of paintings, and I looked at a lot of Hopper paintings. What's his name? Edward Hopper. So do you know the American painter, and he painted people in, you know, the corner cafes or diners or whatever you call them. So I think Edward Hopper was an influence, and we actually did kind of colour code the room, so the couples had different kind of lighting, different set lighting, but also different colours. So you know, so there was a sense that it was quite painterly, I suppose, but we didn't look at specific photos. It was more the paintings and the idea of designing, lighting, and coloured rooms for each different characters. So I suppose it is hopefully quite painterly. And then the snub is a challenge for a director of photography because of what it can do. We shot on the Red camera, which is digital. And you know, so you haven't maybe got the latitude that you have with the camera.
Yeah.
But those the sort of the things behind it, I suppose, were not moving the camera until absolutely necessary.
That's good. Also, the other question is because it was a struggle to get funding, etc. I mean, what kind of crew did you have? Did you have quite a big crew? Was it very minimalist? Was it very skeleton? Or
I think it was more like a documentary crew, really, with a couple of extra people. So a scaled back crew. I would think a scaled back crew is, you know, an AD, maybe an assistant for there, but really not massive. And I think we always felt, I mean, one of the reasons we set it in one place and within very close distances, because if you know, making films cheaply, you don't want to move around too much because any unit move, you know, costs you. So it was all very, very scaled back.
Yes.
Yeah, and the crew as well.
Yeah, the location seems to be like a perfect place to film because you've got everything there. You've got the housing, you've got the living, you've got all the facilities, and you've actually got the set as well. Also, one more question that's just popped in my mind. If you could do that film again, what would you change? What would you kind of try to prevent?
It's a really hard question, but I think if I did any of my films again, I'd simplify them. I'd just simplify. Because I think, you know, you always think it may be the last film you'll ever make, so everything's always overcomplicated. So I think I'd just simplify it in so many ways. But I think I'm incredibly proud of everybody that was in it, what everyone achieved, because for the budget and for the kind of sense of what happened is just amazing. And I suppose it's like anything in life, if you look back, you'd probably try and simplify a situation, you know, in your whole life. You've frozen on me now, but maybe you'll come back.
We can hear, yeah. That's everything for me.
Hello Carol, I'm Kay, I'm freelance photographer and graphic designer. So,
hello, Kay.
Hello. So I noticed a lot about the cinematography within the film, like as Phil mentioned before, about how there's a lot of stills, but I'm not sure whether it's just me reading into it too much as a creative person, but how it's just all related to the title of the film, Edge. There's a lot of shots where you had the cliff edge and way the subjects were positioned were always on the edge of things. So I was just wondering, how important was it? Like, did you come up with the title of the film at the end when everything was shot, or was it right at the beginning of the process, of the filmmaking process? Like, how did the title come about for your film?
I always find that I like to have a title first, because it helps me define sort of what I'm doing. So I actually have the title first. And it's like, I think all my films, I've had the title first. And then I think it helps you sort of conceive what you're looking at and what you're doing. And the film I'm working at the moment, I don't have a firm working title, and I find that quite a struggle. So I'm sort of looking for that title, I think. So I think for me it's a really helpful departure point to define everything else.
Did you pick the music before you devised the scene, or the other way around?
So the songs were written, like the whistling song was written in advance. So that was written in advance, and Edward Ball, he wrote some of the songs in advance. So some of them I knew, and then some of them were later. But obviously music was quite integral to it. So Edward Ball had to write the hit for the singer character, the Paul Hill character with Glenn. So, and the guy that wrote it, he had actually had a top like 100 hit in the 90s, Edward Ball. So he'd never quite made the higher chart. So he kind of went, I know exactly what a 90s song like that would be. But, you know, so he wrote that. So the music came on earlier, and then, you know, some of the same people did it. As Temple came on afterwards, so the girl singing voice came on after. And she's somebody I know, and I just love her work, so I always want to put her music in my films. I just think they're brilliant. Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, my darling. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.